My presentation today has 5 major components. First will be the introduction, and second, the case of sanitation workers, because I'm talking about the discrimination and exclusion during COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. So the third part will be on the migrants' labor, the nowhere people. The fourth part will be socially disadvantaged groups hit hardest by the coronavirus pandemic lockdown. And fifth will be the coronavirus pandemic and response of the state. So let me start now. India has more than 3 million cases of coronavirus now. The situation is far from normal. It is time not only to talk about the ways and means for ending the pandemic, which so far has remained quite sturdy, but at the same time, it is necessary that we talk about how social inequality is practiced in these unfortunate times as well. In the name of maintaining social distancing and the need for remaining pure and fighting against the pollutants, the worst forms of caste-based discrimination and exclusion, including violence, is perpetrated on Dalits and Adivasis, who are also officially called scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Pandemics like COVID-19 or natural disasters are certainly not caste/race neutral. It is perhaps inherent in the socio-political and economic system that inequality gets further entrenched, and we get to see differential impact on different social groups. This has been the experience of tsunami, aftermath relief and rehabilitation, Latur earthquake in Maharashtra, and Gujarat earthquake and Odisha cyclone in the past, and it happens every year in the post-flood relief distribution across the country that most marginalized people face discrimination and exclusion by the society at large and also by the government officials. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to an unplanned countrywide lockdown, which is still continuing in some way or the other. Millions of lesser humans have been left high and dry and were forced to walk barefoot or with minimal accessories, and in the process dying an unnatural death either through road accident or due to callous policy of the state government and the central government. Let me talk about the case of sanitation workers. How the government, the society at large, deals with sanitation workers should keep haunting us again and again about the need for humanizing ourselves, our society, and the government as well. Instead of doing this, what we witness every day is complete dehumanization of sanitation workers as if their lives do not matter at all. This happens despite the fact that they are the frontline warriors who fight every day with dirt and dangerous elements to keep us alive, safe, and ticking. The stigma that is attached with their work and the caste that they belong to keeps them at the receiving end and on the margins in every sense of the term. Even before the coronavirus pandemic, their living conditions were in a sorry state of affairs. And with the continuing pandemic, they are further exposed to dangers of working without enough safety kits, equipments, as most of them work with bare hands and minimum protection. They are the lesser humans, and it is their job to clean the society's filth and dirt. They cannot claim any rights and free and equal citizens. This is what has been prescribed for them under the Brahmanical caste system. It was 2 days ago, the Indian Express reported a news item from Bombay Municipal Corporation that workers are being denied drinking water facilities and access to toilets as they are Dalits, and they are also not being paid, the minimum required wages, which has been decided by the government of India. In another report, which was published on July 30 in India Spend, it's a web magazine. It has been noted that as the contagion surges across the country, sanitation workers continue to be inadequately protected. This is from a report based on the telephonic survey of 214 sanitation workers in 5 states and 2 metros by 2 independent researchers, namely Darshan Nigam and Siva Dubey. We also have seen that India's 40 lakh the 4 million waste pickers in the informal sector and garbage collectors employed by the state are at a direct risk of getting infected with coronavirus from handling unmarked medical and contaminated waste. Sanitation workers still do not have, have not been supplied with the proper PPE and other safety equipments. though the governments would claim that they have no problem at all in supplying these equipments to the sanitation workers, but sanitation workers complain at most of the places that they have to work with bare hand, and in most of the cases even without wearing mask. In recent days, we have seen many sanitation workers having tested positive for COVID-19, not only in states like Tamil Nadu, but also reported from other states. With contract jobs and no pay during recovery, the workers battle societal stigma and ostracization all the time. Oh, there was a very curious and interesting development that took place when the lockdown was imposed in India. That is about the migrant people, the migrant labor, the nowhere people. The migrant labor crisis that exploded after the announcement of the complete lockdown with barely 4-hour notice resulted into human-induced catastrophe unheard of in contemporary times. It needs to be explained in broadest possible ways so as to understand where does the problem could lie. Ever since the ascendance of the neoliberal regimes and the capture of state power by the right-wing majoritarian political parties became a reality in recent years, the fate of informal economy, migrant workers in particular, and labor rights in general has been on the downslide. And now with the COVID-19 pandemic, the wretched of the earth are forced to, they were forced to walk down the roads of misery, destitution, and death. The Dalits, the Adivasis, and people belonging to other backward castes who form the overwhelming majority of casual, non-casual daily wage earners in India's informal economy are paying a heavy price now, with their lives being destroyed slowly and gradually. Even other workers in the organized and unorganized sector are not in a happy situation either. Would it lead to redemption for humanity, or would it lead to Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India? That only time would tell in future. But according to Ashwini Deshpande, a noted economist, and another of her colleague Rajesh Ramchandran, who have co-authored a recent working paper, which is titled as "Is COVID-19 the Great Leveler?", which was published recently, all caste groups experienced a fall in employment between December 2019 and April 2020. But the drop in employment for the lower ranked caste groups were far greater in magnitude than for the upper caste people. The share of the upper caste losing job is 7 percentage points compared to 21 percentage points for the lowest ranked scheduled castes. On examining the differences in education levels across caste groups, as well as the nature of employment contracts the individuals hold, the analysis shows that the lower levels of human capital and higher likelihood of holding daily wage jobs explain the differential effects of the lockdown on caste group. We have also seen, how agonizing days of migrant workers walking back to their villages from the major cities. Over 10 agonizing days, a migrant worker walked and hitchhiked 1,250 miles home. This was the phase that India had left no choice for a migrant worker. This was reported by CNN on May 31, 2020. And in the same program, it was also mentioned about another person named Rajesh Chauhan, who had covered 620 miles, 1,000 kilometers in 5 days. His legs were swollen and his blisters had burst. A piece of styrofoam trash he had found on the roadside was soaking up the pus seeping from his feet. This was the pathetic pictures that was being reported everywhere in the countryside. There was another picture which was very disturbing. This was the picture of an 11-year-old Muslim boy named Tabarak. He was carrying his father and mother on a tricycle cart, and he traveled for 600 kilometers from Varanasi in UP to Araria in Uttar Pradesh. Similar cases have been also reported. Since there is not much time, I'd like to talk rest of the things that have been left out during the concluding session. So I'll just conclude here by saying that what we need how should one deal with COVID-19 pandemic? Certainly not with social distancing, which in the South Asian context has inbuilt casteist connotations of discrimination and exclusion. Ubuntu is what we need now and also in future, because a society without Ubuntu is a dead society. And I hope we are all familiar with the concept of Ubuntu, which was popularized by Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu, several years ago during the anti-apartheid regime. If a society which doesn't have Ubuntu is a dead society, that is how I would like to end my presentation here today. Rest will be taken up later. Thank you.